Stone Cold, the Hellraiser is back!
Here we go! Evolution of the Shield!
John Cena versus the Showstopper!
Hulk Hogan and The Rock in the same ring!
You will never take my place at the head of the table!
Undertaker! On the Hell's Gate submission! Oh my God! What?
My God, Michaels just kicked Cena's head off!
The Monday Night Wars have come to WrestleMania!
It'll be The Rock! It'll be Austin one-on-one!
Third and final, The Undertaker!
Do you believe in miracles?
The streak is over!
Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to Rivalries on the WWE podcast on this Friday, July 28th, as 1 week away from SummerSlam. Crazy to say that, as I know Matt has touched on it, but it feels like SummerSlam has been getting earlier each and every year. Although last year, I think it was July 31st, right? So, or was it July 31st? It was something around that, or July 30th maybe, because the 31st does fall on a Monday this year. And we're getting towards a card that I think is going to be pretty good, and I think we have the chance to see some pretty significant title changes. But we're not here to get into that. We are going back in time for Retro, as I believe I opened up with Rivalries, but it would be fitting if I did mess up and open up with Rivalries, because we are going to be covering a rivalry, ironically enough. And, you know, that's why I kind of switched to Retro in the first place, because it would allow me to cover rivalries in the past, even though it was branded as Retro. And we're going to be covering the rivalry of Batista and Rey Mysterio against The Big Show and Kane back from 2005. And it was a rivalry that stemmed from the SmackDown versus Raw rivalry that started in October of 2005. And obviously this period of time in WWE is looked at in a darkened light, unfortunately, because of the tragic and sudden passing of Eddie Guerrero, who was supposed to be involved in this program. He was part of Team SmackDown, but obviously he passed away in one of the more tragic things to ever happen in WWE. But we still got a pretty good program of Raw versus SmackDown, the first of its kind in the brand extension era. But a subplot during this program was Batista against Big Show and Kane. And it was something that continued to rear its ugly head throughout the program, of Big Show and Kane trying to hurt Batista before the 5-on-5 match at Survivor Series. And you had them chokeslam Batista, easy enough for me to say. Big Show and Kane chokeslam Batista through a parked car in the parking lot brawl between Raw and SmackDown on a Monday Night Raw then. But it wasn't enough to keep Batista down. And that was leading into Survivor Series, where you had the main event of SmackDown of Batista defending his World Heavyweight Championship against fellow SmackDown member Randy Orton. But there was an impending invasion of Raw happening. So Teddy Long, the then general manager of SmackDown, surrounded the ring with SmackDown superstars to make sure that the Raw invaders wouldn't be able to get their hands on Batista or Randy Orton, both of which would be part of Team SmackDown that very Sunday. But not only did all hell break loose, but it was spearheaded by Kane and The Big Show.
Simple as a collar and elbow tie-up makes Batista stretch his arm out and stretches his ribbon. And his injury's out.
Think about it. He's been chokeslammed in the ring. He's been chokeslammed through a car. Batista's been through the ringer. And then you see Batista.
Painful.
But he's not going to make an excuse for it. If he was, he'd try to beg out of this matchup. He did not do that. The champion, ready to go.
But that's so cool. That speaks the type of competitor that Batista is.
Randy Orton is also a great competitor. He realizes Batista's less than 100%. Orton realizes this could be his night. What the hell? Wait a minute. That's wrong. He lost it. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, how is fucking it's a fight. A big fight. Here we go, man. HBK. Bam! The arena has come unglued. Watch your back, Ray. And Carlito. As the neck breaker. And Carlito and Masters. And look at the Master Lock. The Master Lock. Somebody help Ray. Somebody get rid of the SmackDown superstars are fighting him. What the hell, Batista? Yeah, Buster. Come on, Batista. Fine, Buster. Oh, baby. Batista. Well, watch out. Man, just so close. Hey, back here. No. So wait a minute. What is this? This is the big show. Get him. Batista. Kane's running into the corner. Batista. Batista's hurt. Oh my God. No. Oh my God, no. Batista. Yeah. Get him, Dave. Come on, Batista. Suck it up. Drive him. Watch it back. Big shot from behind. The numbers game catching up to the champion. And our SmackDown superstars don't realize what's going on to him. Oh, now a fight outside the ring. The fight only all the way there. Batista. He's in trouble right out in front of us here. He's been cutting off from the others by Big Show and Kane. These two gigantic. Kane and Big. Oh my God. Hey, how do you do it? Get out of here. Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. JBL trying to help out. Trying to save Batista. And Kane is trying. No. Stop this. No, stop this. He's hard hit. No. He's holding. No. Oh my God. Our champion has been left laying.
So, once again, Kane and Big Show are able to single out Batista and chokeslam him, double chokeslam him through the announce table. And one thing that was very effective in this segment was JBL desperately trying to get to Batista. And obviously JBL had been a major heel on SmackDown for about a year and a half, had just finished up a program with Batista over the World Heavyweight Championship in the main event scene of SmackDown, but JBL always a very SmackDown first guy, at least for this point, but we'll get to that later in this discussion. But you chokeslam Batista, the world champion, the leader of SmackDown, 3 days before the 5-on-5 match at Survivor Series, when he already had a bandaged up shoulder, damaged ribs, I believe was what they were trying to sell. And going into the match, it made it all that more intriguing of how would Batista fare. And for someone that you thought would be one of the finalists or one of the maybe the sole survivor on Team SmackDown, which also comprised of JBL, Rey Mysterio, Bobby Lashley, and Randy Orton, he was the second guy eliminated after Bobby Lashley. And then even on the side of Kane and the Big Show, I believe that Kane and the Big Show were the first two eliminated on the Raw side. I know for a fact that Kane was the first eliminated. So it was a sub-storyline, but that didn't take over the entire Raw versus SmackDown story. But how did we get to Batista being singled out by Kane and Big Show? And you have to rewind a few weeks as to how this all started and how the plot and the plan was put into place by then General Manager Eric Bischoff. And that was when he sent Edge to SmackDown to have a street fight with Batista when he deemed that Edge wasn't taking the Raw brand seriously enough. But when Edge got there to have his street fight with Batista, not only was it a setup on Batista, but they had also set up the general manager of SmackDown in Teddy Long, who was attacked by Chris Masters and Carlito, and then the hired protection of SmackDown and Matt Hardy, JBL, Bobby Lashley, and such chased after Masters and Carlito, which left Batista to the wolves and left him to the trap set by Bischoff and Edge.
Well, Batista still wants Edge, and I want to see Batista finish Edge. Now I really want to see Batista finish Edge. What the hell? Oh my God, wait a minute. It can't be. Oh my God, it's Kane. It's Kane for Raw. Look at that! Batista is not backing down. He's now looking at Batista's face. I believe Batista realized that he just got set up. On the other side, oh my God! Oh, Michelle coming through the crowd. What the? Oh my God! What damn shit! The World Tag Team Champions from Raw are here, and Batista is on the line. Batista's trapped. Somebody's got to do something out here. Security, somebody. Batista's corner. The Animal's corner. What the hell is going on, Edge? What? Hey, look at that. Come on, tag team champ. Start swinging, champ. Just start swinging. Do it after that. Like it's sports entertainment. In a long time. And Batista trying to hold his own. Take it on. And now the numbers game. Big shot to the headbutt. The champ back to his feet. Our champion being dismantled in our ring. KBO, Mysterio, Matt Hardy, all gone. All right into that. Right? You know what? Next was and Kane. Lastly, no. 100 pounds. Oh, my God. God! We need help. What was it for nothing? Shoot out, keep him a step down. Man. Sky too high out here as well. Ooh! By Kane. We need help. We need everybody out here. Look at Kane. Oh, my God. Oh, jeez. Up the announce tables. Here comes Paul London. The SmackDown locker room empty. Oh, my God. These two monsters. Here comes Holly. Spear. A spear by the Big Show. Oh, God. Right. Come on, Hyro. Watch out. Kane and Big Show are dismantling the SmackDown locker room. They're down the rubber animal. This is unbelievable. In our ring. In our damn ring. What is the setup? We never expected this. They caught us. Big time. Oh, wow. The champion, Batista, is already down. Already the victim of a brutal assault. This whole damn thing was a setup by Big Dog. One edge this past Monday. And the champ comes out now. A double chokeslam. And remember, Batista's money Eddie. Something graphic that comes earlier on.
So this is kind of what set the tone for Kane and Big Show running roughshod all over SmackDown leading into Survivor Series, or before the match even happened, or before the aforementioned clip took place. And it would spill into after Survivor Series, into how Kane and Big Show would continue to have issues on SmackDown, even though they were the Raw Tag Team Champions, or back then known as the World Tag Team Champions. And, I mean, on a side note, Big Show and Kane as a tag team, and as tag team champions, the belts they had won at Taboo Tuesday in October of 2005, and held all the way until just after WrestleMania, I believe the Raw after WrestleMania, when they dropped them to the Spirit Squad. I mean, they were one of the more effective tag teams of the Ruthless Aggression Era. And even though they were an unconventional tag team, I truly believe that it was something that was needed for both these guys. Because for Kane, you know, ironically enough about this clip is that a mere few months before this, he had just had Lita stolen away from him in storyline. And you had already done the monster gimmick post taking his mask off. You had already turned him babyface. He needed a fresh kind of coat of paint. And for the Big Show, who had just transferred over to Raw from SmackDown about 4 or 5 months prior in the draft, him too, he had, well, it's well documented how many times Big Show had turned heel, babyface, but he hadn't really been in the championship picture for about a year at this point. And getting him in the tag team scene with Kane to just run roughshod and really become like the bodyguards of Monday Night Raw in a lot of ways, and the heavies of Monday Night Raw, was pretty cool to see. And obviously two of the more imposing figures in WWE at this point. And then for them to ragdoll Batista in the manner they did in the weeks leading up to Survivor Series was very, very effective, because, you know, Batista, World Heavyweight Champion, was right on par with John Cena at this point obviously a physically imposing guy in his own right. I believe he's 6'5". At this point in time, was well over 300 pounds. It was a very, very effective way to book Kane and Big Show to feel like monsters after both of them had been stale for probably going on a year at this point. So as I mentioned before, their problems with SmackDown went well beyond Survivor Series. And in the SmackDown that followed Survivor Series, they would return, even though they were the Raw Tag Team Champions, to face off against JBL and Rey Mysterio in kind of like a spillover from Survivor Series. Two members of both teams going off against each other. But as I mentioned before, JBL had a big dedication to SmackDown, but not in this match, as he got poked in the eye by the referee, I believe it was, and walked away from the match saying that he couldn't compete. So that left Rey Mysterio to defend himself against the likes of Kane and the Big Show.
Mysterio rolling out of the ring to the apron. Rey Mysterio, same time. I mean, at this point, forget about who the legal man is. Show some damn compassion for Mysterio. Rey Mysterio bouncing over the wall, trying to take the big red blood out of his knees. Rey Mysterio yet again with a shoulder to the back of the knee. Chop him down, Rey, chop him down. Rey Mysterio, drop kick to the spine. Come on, Rey, pull it out, baby. Rey Mysterio, drop kick again. Can Rey do it? He's set up for 619. Can Rey pull it off? Rey Mysterio 619 to Kane. Here's one to Kane. Here's one. Come on, Rey. Oh my God. Down to 619. Mysterio with two 619s. How's he going? Rey Mysterio top rope. Oh my God. Don't do it, guys. Choke slam. The cover by the Big Show. Survivor Series payback? You know what? You gotta be kidding me. Because Mysterio picked the Big Show at Survivor Series. Is that what this is all about? Gotta be. Oh, no. Oh, not on the chair. I don't like the looks of this. Not a double choke slam on the chair. No. Wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Here comes the animal. Heavyweight champion Batista. Make it a beeline. Batista, don't know what he's two monsters. Come on, champ. Come on, champ. Come on, Batista. Big Show missing with the clothesline. There's a spear. I don't believe these monsters are wrong. They're running into the animal tide. No, son, they did not. SmackDown's own Raw Heavyweight Champion. Hey, Kane and Big Show. They said about payback. No doubt about it. That one's for Mysterio. Right across the skull of the Big Show. I'll tell you what. This Dave Batista, the World Heavyweight Champion of SmackDown, the opposing Swirl Right. Wow. SmackDown standing tall thanks to the World Heavyweight Champion. And let's show you.
So Batista gets his revenge on Kane and the Big Show, at least from a bit, at least a bit. But this would kind of spark Batista and Rey Mysterio joining forces. And they would eventually get a crack at the WWE Tag Team Championships, which were held by M&M at this point in time. And this was leading into Armageddon 2005, which would feature Batista and Rey Mysterio against Kane and the Big Show, branded as, you know, champions versus champions. So they get their match with M&M and do win. And that was pretty cool, right? To see Batista hold 2 championships. And it also involved Melina and Batista. And I'm not really going to play that clip or kind of even allude to it because it isn't a PG segment at all. I'm sure some of you know what I'm talking about, so I'm not even going to get into that in any capacity. But leading into Batista and Rey Mysterio against the Big Show and Kane to Armageddon 05, that was a pretty big, substantial branding of the match. And if I'm not, like, to be honest, I watched a bit of this pay-per-view a couple weeks ago, and it was a pretty good pay-per-view. Like, I know Matt and I have discussed B-level pay-per-views before and their significances, but, like, you know, you look at this, and JBL and Matt Hardy open the show in a singles match. Eminem defeat the Mexicools. Chris Benoit defeats Booker T in the 4th of a best-of-7 match for the vacant U.S. Championship. Bobby Lashley defeats Regal and Paul Burchill in a handicap match. Kid Cash defeats Juventud to become the new Cruiserweight Champion. And then you have the Big Show and Kane versus Rey Mysterio and Batista. And then in the main event, you have The Undertaker defeating Randy Orton inside Hell in a Cell in 30 minutes and 30 seconds. So all in all, a pay-per-view that I would suggest for you guys to go back and watch. But you get Batista and Kane versus Rey Mysterio and Batista, or Big Show and Kane versus Rey Mysterio and Batista, in a match that went 8.5 minutes, champion versus champion. And this would be the culmination of this program of, like, you know, the final blow-off of Raw versus SmackDown and Batista versus Kane and Big Show. And now with Rey Mysterio involved with tag team championships going up against each other, or champions going up against each other. And the way it would finally come to a close, in my opinion, was a bit shocking, but also pushed the narrative of how strongly they wanted to make Big Show and Kane look.
He took Batista out and allowed Kane to defeat Mysterio. But what an effort by Batista and Mysterio in this matchup. Absolutely.
So in the end, Batista and, or I keep saying Batista, Big Show and Kane do get the one-up on the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, Batista and Rey Mysterio. And in a lot of ways, this would be the lasting, like, vibe or image of Batista's World Heavyweight Championship run, his inaugural run as World Heavyweight Champion, because he would shortly after this get injured and have to relinquish the title and would only return in, I believe it was the summer of 2006 when he returned, and would regain the championship at Survivor Series 06 from King Booker. And for Rey Mysterio, he would go on to win the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 22 in April of 06 after winning the Royal Rumble. But the victory of Kane and the Big Show, for me, was very, very substantial because, like I said, both of these guys, for the better part of a year, if not more, had really been lost in no man's land. And, you know, you could say what you want about Kane, or more specifically the Big Show, about how they were one-dimensional and they were stale and they weren't main eventers, but they were still good utility guys. And that's why I always see the value in having a Braun Strowman, or having, maybe not an Omos because he's kind of like on the extreme side. He kind of teeters onto like the Great Khali's of the world, but just mobile big men. I think Bronson Reed has the potential for that as well. They're never going to carry your company. They're never going to be the faces of your brand, but they can be used properly. And I think putting Kane and the Big Show together and making them go on this run, torment SmackDown, dominate the World Heavyweight Champion Batista, defeat the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. I know they were the WWE Tag Team Champions, but just, you know, for the sake of proper description, and they were, you know, kind of de facto SmackDown Tag Team Champions. I thought it was a really good win for Kane and the Big Show, and it made them feel all that more significant on Raw. And for Rey Mysterio and Batista, like, they would drop the tag team titles back to M&M in short order. Batista, I think, was primed to have a program with Melina. Obviously, that had to get scrapped because of his real-life injury and relinquishing the World Heavyweight Championship. Then you had Kurt Angle move over to SmackDown, win the World Heavyweight title in a Battle Royal. Rey Mysterio move on to win the Royal Rumble, then have a program with Randy Orton, as I mentioned, would win the World Heavyweight Championship in a triple threat match with Angle and Randy Orton at WrestleMania. So, I mean, it was, all in all, it was a pretty cool rivalry that not a lot of people talk about, and was a spin-off of SmackDown and Raw. But anyway, guys, that's all I got for you tonight. I hope you enjoyed Rey Mysterio and Batista versus Kane and the Big Show. As always, you can get me on Twitter at ADemarco25. You can get Matt on Twitter at wrestling_audio, or you can email him each and every week for the WWE podcast mailbag. That's all I got for you, like I just said, and I'll be talking to you next week.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.